Yeah. So anyway, watching What the Health documentary, and then I watched it first. You didn't watch it, and then I went downstairs literally as soon as I finished the documentary, and then I went into the kitchen. Mum was there making chicken, and then I just said to Mum, I was like, I don't want to eat this stuff because obviously when you just watch the documentary. You're all like psyched up about it. You feel like it's just influenced you loads, and it makes sense because you don't really question it more. So literally, as soon as I watched it, I went downstairs, I was like, "Mum, we should stop eating this." And then I red pilled Mum, like
Before
slowly,
me.
like in the kitchen. Just then, I was telling Mum about, oh, they inject it with all of this. You don't even know where it's from. Even your halal chicken, you don't know where it's from. And then Mum was like kind of on it because she also wanted to kind of stop eating meat. Remember, she didn't used to eat
Yeah.
that much. She used to make it and then she wouldn't even eat that much, and she just like didn't want meat so much. So it was like easy for her. But then I think I told you or something after, and you watched it after me.
Yeah, I remember watching it and it just changed me as well.
Yeah,
Literally the next day went completely vegan.
literally we no we had a little phase out period.
No, it went cold turkey. I remember we said, all right, we're gonna go vegan and then we're gonna look into like way more into it on the health aspects, find out what it's all about. And then if it's just not what it is, we'll just go back to eating meat or whatever.
You know what's funny? We used to say before we went vegan, we were like, "Oh no, I'm never ever gonna stop eating meat." Some people talk about
Yeah,
it,
it was
ever,
so
ever.
sure.
And then watched What the Health, and we got absolutely, I don't want to say brainwashed because it served its time. In our vegan time, it served its purpose, but there's a lot of things wrong with What the Health. Well, you don't question
Yeah,
it.
there's so
Like,
many.
so there was loads of other documentaries. There was the Food Inc. and What the Health basically set,
There was one with Leonardo DiCaprio.
yeah, Leonardo DiCaprio, and then just over the years, loads of other vegan documentaries came out and videos. And I didn't even watch that many after that. That What the Health was one of the documentaries that influenced me the most. But then it influenced us to go more into that research of diet, of confirming what you just basically watch from What the
Yeah,
Health.
because we knew straight from the get-go that there was way more to it. So then, when you start looking it up yourself, it opens so many different avenues.
Yeah.
And that's when we came across like the raw food and loads of other good stuff.
Yeah, so then we basically were vegan for 6 years. So we
Well,
were
I'd say we were vegan for 5, and then I did vegetarian for like a year and a half
yeah.
after that.
So around about 5.5 years we were vegan.
Hmm.
And I think one of the things that kept us on that, because when you transition to veganism and you do it the first year, I saw loads of results because before I was vegan, don't know if you remember, but we were just getting into health. We were just getting into holistic living. We were very, very new to it. So prior to going vegan was like the first, so veganism was the first introduction to eating and living healthily, or what we perceived as healthily. But then before that, I was drinking Pepsi Max every day. Remember, bro, I would not even drink water for like 4 days. It would be Pepsi
Yeah,
Max.
but then we went through like the gym bro phase where we were just having like,
We were on
straight
creatine, we were
energy.
on whey protein, we were on like high meat. When we talk about high protein, bro, we were eating our body weight times
Yeah,
three,
it was way too much.
way too much protein. And I remember just like not feeling great at all, even though I didn't look too bad and I looked kind of fit and healthy. And we were playing football and everything, we were active. But prior to veganism, I had a lot of health challenges. And then when you switch to veganism, bro, we were thriving the first 2 years.
I'd say
I would say the first two.
3, 4 years, kind of thriving.
I would say
I mean,
the first.
lost a lot of weight. I went from 76 to 61 kg.
Yeah,
Lost 15 kg in that time.
yeah,
It's hard to put weight back on.
yeah. And then because that's what the vegan diet will do. It is anti-inflammatory. You know, obviously you're not on the high protein. It will usher you into healing crisis, and so you'll get well. You'll enter a new plateau of health or a new state of balance, which is basically what happened to us. But we found out at least, 5 years into veganism what that really meant for our health. I was looking back at pictures. I was with Nika and I was looking at pictures of when I was vegan, like my prime vegan days. Bro, I was so effeminate. Like when I look at those pictures, the clothes I was,
Soy boy phase.
yeah, it's like the clothes that I was choosing to wear were like these tight, kind of like flary, very effeminate clothing. And like just the way like I would watch certain videos of that time and my demeanor and the way I would carry myself wasn't, it's not something that I want to embody now. I look back, I'm like, bro,
Yeah,
the testosterone levels, the hormones were completely off balance. But that's what it will do to you. That's what the vegan,
they're the first thing to get shot when you're vegan.
yeah,
Is your hormone levels just get imbalanced.
yeah,
And for guys, it's like it becomes evident. You can see it. You
yeah,
kind of, a lot of vegans gaslight themselves. Like we did that ourselves, where you don't, you, you sort of sideline your own symptoms because you're so stuck in like the ideology of I'm vegan for life. This is the right diet. But I mean, rude awakening happens later on in the line where you realize the shit ain't working out properly.
yeah. And then the hormones go down, and that's probably the cascade. That's what creates the cascading health consequences for me. The main things that happened to me when a long period of vegan was I had a lot of brain fog. My cognitive issues started to surface around about 3 years into veganism. That's when the hormones started to go off balance. And because veganism, and bear in mind, we were not eating the shoddy Beyond Burger meats and stuff like that. We didn't even consider ourselves vegan. We were plant-based. We didn't want to fall into the category of veganism because
Yeah, high
we
raw
were
food,
yeah, we were
high
awakening,
fruit.
yeah, we were awakening. So we kind of understood that there was elements of veganism that was hijacked by the likes of Bill Gates, by, the World Economic Forum and all of that stuff, because it's a completely controlled movement. And so we clocked onto that and we didn't want to be part of some kind of cult, let alone did we know that we were truly embodying it anyway, because we got into that mindset of this is so normal for us that we can't even perceive another reality beyond veganism. If somebody was talk to me about the benefits of eating meat, I would disregard it because my way was the best way. My way was good for me. And we got into that mindset. And anyway, we were not eating the processed Beyond Burger meats. We knew to stay away from that. And you at least were, bro, you were like almost pretty much fruitarian for about 6 months to a year.
Yeah, I was doing the raw till four.
Yeah.
Did that for quite a while. But you sort of get lost in the healing arts of it all because you come across the likes of Robert Morse, John Rose, and you see the power of raw food, how it can heal you, juicing, and you get so caught up in it. We got caught up in it where it's like the healing diet.
Hmm.
But healing is a phase that you go through in life. You don't stay in that same healing diet your whole life. Otherwise, you just there's nothing to build on. There's no foundation.
Hmm.
And I think we both sort of started seeing that in ourselves. You start withering away, kind of.
Yeah, like you reinforce your own belief systems. That's
Mm.
the I think the most detrimental part about going face on into any kind of diet. We're not even talking veganism. It can be carnivore, can be paleo, can be whatever kind of diets are out there now. The underlying root issue of that, and the most important issue, is how you psychologically attach yourself and identify with the diet. And so when you are on a diet and it seems to be working for you, bear in mind there is so much that you can go into that for, you know, what you're
Yeah, I
using,
mean, if you go on Instagram,
no, but what you're
you,
using as markers for what's working for you. Sometimes it's not based in reality.
well, it makes up people's whole personality. You go on Instagram and you go on people's bios, first thing is what diet they are.
Yeah,
Some people it's in their name.
yeah.
And it's like it's making up their whole identity.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna get lost in like what's factual, what's right or wrong, because you're gonna have to question yourself at a
Mm-hmm.
fundamental level if the diet makes up your whole personality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like that's what I mean by when you reinforce your belief systems. So when it becomes part of your personality, you're just surrounded by that. So for example, for us, when we went vegan and it became part of our identity, or plant-based, and it became a lifestyle. That's what everybody's selling to you now. The diet is the lifestyle. And you reinforce what you are eating by watching people like Robert Morse. I'm not saying Robert Morse is bad or anything, because he's a G, as we both
Yeah,
know.
the legend.
He's an absolute legend, but it's the mentality that you have to have in which it will grip you and force you to be in a cultish like mindset. And for us, we were high in the fruits and we were loving that, like, that
It's
sense
like a
like,
high vibrational state, you always
yeah.
like a floating state,
Yeah,
kind
it's
of.
like you kind of, because the foods you're eating when you, if anybody knows and who has ever been on eating fruit as a main, component of their diet, you know how light it is. These are like high vibrational foods that will lift you up. But at the same time, there is a time in which you have to come down. And we didn't come
Yeah,
down.
that I would say that was the biggest issue I came about 3 years in, was
Yeah,
that ground. I was lacking being grounded.
yeah.
And I think that's the most common issue I see in vegans is like they just never satiated with their diet. So
Mm-hmm.
they try and just go high on the avocados, the fats, but it just doesn't help them,
Mm-hmm.
get that satiation that they're looking for. And there's only so long you can go before you question the diet properly and you're like, is this actually feasible long term?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so when did you realize it wasn't feasible?
Like when dad passed away, that's when that grounding, I was really looking to try and find some grounding space.
Mm-hmm.
But the diet was just not helping me. I went more on the juice and more raw fruit. But that's when I started questioning, like, I don't think this is helping me. My diet's not like helping me in my life at this moment.
Mm-hmm.
In a grieving state, you kind of you're searching for some grounding energy.
Did it feel more like escapism? You were eating to.
It felt more just unhealthy, unbalanced.
Mm.
I
Because
don't know if it's
that
related to like just the nervous system and how it's impacted, but that was personal experience. And obviously that was just the feelings I had. It was only 2 years, 2.5 years after that where I actually integrated, the raw milks and the saturated fats. But yeah, that's when it kind of started.
So like 2020, 2000
An
and
emotional event in your life, yeah.
yeah. Because one of the things with high fruits is it puts you in almost a dream world. It puts you in a dream state where you're floating. You're so high vibrational that it's addictive. People get addicted to the high on fruits. Have you seen those videos of people who literally have orgasms of fruits? They have an org. They
Yeah, it's that feminine energy. Just
yeah.
right.
And the fruits are feminine. Fruits are the feminine part of the world. And so of course when it's primarily your source of nutrition, you will start to experience that feminine side coming forward. And that's why you see it a lot with fruitarians. They're really, really in tune with their feminine nature. I'm not saying we shouldn't be, but there is a balance and there's a scale. And I certainly felt that I was on one side of the scale because I would
What was your point where you realized
there was health, there's a few reasons. When I
we
realized,
sort of question it together as well
yeah, we questioned it
all the
together. We
time?
kind of like I remember us having conversations where we were like, oh, bro, we doing the right thing? Or, let's try, I don't know. And then we kind of phased out of it in very similar times. But for me, there was a few things that were the main, the main points. For me, I was just analyzing the state of my health. When I realized like no matter how many fruits I have, or no matter how plant-based I go, I still have cognitive uh, disabilities in the sense of, I had a brain fog. I was losing my short-term memory. That was getting significantly worse. And then digestive issues were on point. Like I didn't have any digestive issues. That was one of the great
Mhm.
things about the plant-based diet is it's really great for your colon and your gut.
For
The
so long.
For so long, yeah. At least that I didn't experience any weakness in that area. Um, and the other part was this emotional, this mood change, and also this feeling of being more on the feminine side of things when I wanted to embody more of a masculine energy. I wanted to work on my masculine side, and I saw the diet wasn't helping me do that. So
Yes.
I was embodying like very feminine principles. My lack of ability to stay firm and rooted in my decisions and to say no, and these kind of qualities that are true masculine male should have. I was lacking in them, and I knew the diet was definitely a part of that, especially when you get into how it affects the hormone levels and how it doesn't supply you with the nutrition long term because it's a healing diet. You're not supposed to be on a healing diet because there has to be a time to rebuild. And we never rebuilt, bro. We were just, and
But
we,
also we weren't looking to heal anything also. We fell into it because of the ideology of it's the species specific diet, shouldn't kill animals, we're not designed to digest animals, all of that, rhetoric, but we didn't actually purposefully go into the diet to heal something. You only realize later on that it's a healing diet
yeah.
and it's advised you to go on a diet such as that when you have an illness or a specific ailment. But when you're, a young male, you want your hormone levels, you want your testosterone high, you want to embody the masculine energy. That diet will impair you.
Mm.
We realize that after 3, 4 years. But I mean, I see a lot of guys out there, they're hitting the 10-year mark and it's just wreaking havoc on them.
Hmm.
There's not many that reach the 10-year mark though.
How do you actually find something that's good for you?
Well, you can go to more the route of like intuition and listening to your own body. A lot of people don't, like we did ourselves. We were vegan. You had them issues, but like I said before, you gaslight yourself. So you have an issue and you say, no, I don't really think that's an issue because the overall idea of like the diet is the right moral thing that overpowers any um, cautions that you have. And every time you do that, you're removing your intuition from your own body.
Hmm.
The connection you have to how you feel is everything. And the diet's meant to help you in how you feel.
Hmm. Yeah, I think I was definitely doing that because I know there was a lot of telltale signs that were showing up for me on the vegan diet. And when it comes to your own health, you don't question it deeply enough. And because especially when there is belief systems involved with it, you get this, you fall into certain biases of the brain. And so you don't question your own, you're less intuitive about your body because the belief system's stronger than that. The belief system's stronger than your intuition. And for me, and I know for a lot of people as well, the idea of hitting, oh, 5 years vegan, it becomes a game. Like I'm 5 years vegan.
Yeah.
Some people feel morally superior than others because they were 5 years vegan. Some people feel morally superior because, I call it ego spiritualism, because they feel they also don't eat meat and they're cleaner as a person than another person. The pitfalls of veganism or our journey through veganism, and then like I want a component of, because I'm big on this, is like having the discernment to know what to choose, like, and not being like questioning why you do, like why do you follow veganism, and actually being actually transparent with that. Like, what are the reasons? Nobody ever questions themselves. For example, you're saying like the healing diet. We went into veganism. We didn't even. It wasn't because we wanted to heal. It was because we watched a documentary that influenced us. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the pitfall, because that's where you get trapped into.
It's someone selling you an idea.
Yeah, yeah. So that, and one of the common things a lot of people say is, "Oh, you didn't do it properly." They gaslight you.
Hmm.
You didn't do it properly. I bet you were eating all this fake junk food, and you're like, "Nope, I
It's a
understand it's a."
self-defense mechanism,
Yeah,
attacking the belief.
yeah. And it's like, no, I'm a trained detox specialist. I know that veganism and the plant-based world is a detoxification healing diet. I'm fully aware of that. We did detoxes when we were actually on that diet. No, the diet just didn't work for us. Like, and people can't accept that. And that's when all the cognitive biases come in play, and then they try to gaslight you, basically thinking that you did it wrong somehow. But I do think there is a way to do it wrong. Like there are majority of the people that are transitioning to that diet are
Hmm.
eating all this bogus food, all the GMO frankincense food, basically. And of course, that's gonna be worse than what you were previously doing, because it's just that all the foods are full of artificial flavorings and preservatives, and they're highly processed, and now they're being made in laboratories. So of course that's going to absolutely mess with your health. But for ourselves, and me speaking for myself, is I was predominantly just plant-based, and that was it, and high on fruits, and same with you. Yet we still had these issues that we were experiencing. So it's clearly that certain diets don't work for certain people. And when we realized this, and when it started to become more and more real for me back in, how long has it been now since we switched? Because
I
we kind of
think
switched at the same time,
about 2 years, two and a
about
half.
2 years. So around about 2 years ago is when we started to introduce more of that balance. After being 5 years eating a certain way, or 5.5 years eating a certain way, it's like, okay, now it's about time to just start reintroducing some foods we haven't eaten that I know my body was craving. Because that's also the funny thing about the vegan diet, bro. There was so many times my body was craving, like what you were saying before, satiation, something fatty, something just that's just going to nourish my body.
And then you basically have been convinced that it's the desire of the parasites in you or
Yeah,
something like that, and then you disregard it.
yeah. And you're basically you're going against your own self nature. Like, you've been so conditioned on a mental level, you go against what your body is signaling to you. Like, that's mad mind control. And Yeah, so what did you introduce first? I introduced eggs first into the diet. I remember I was trying out with like eggs once or twice a week. And I already noticed improvements for just having eggs into my diet for 1 or 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think
Once or twice a week. Yeah.
went vegetarian for around a year and a half. Introduced raw milk, eggs, and like raw butter and ghee.
And ghee, damn the ghee.
Or, um, and yeah, it sort of straightened out every little issue I had. I was pretty um like that balance that I was craving, that satiation, that grounding effect. It definitely grounded me properly.
Yeah.
And then also remineralizing with shilajit, sea salt,
Mhm.
all that good stuff. After that, I think it was completely okay.
Yeah, and
That's before even meat.
yeah, because when I introduced the eggs and the ghee helped a lot because when you're vegan, of course, your brain's made of predominantly fat tissue. And on a vegan diet, you don't get near as enough as, the saturated fats that your body needs. And I mean, I wasn't fully aware of the saturated fat effects. And so, yeah, we did have like the olive oils. It was like a lot of the time it was olive oils, avocado oil, and we weren't having coconut oil that much. It was only towards my later vegan stages when I started to get more into the health effects of veganism that I started to introduce the coconut oil, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't concentrated enough for us. So when I introduced the ghee, the raw milk that came, the pasture raised biodynamic eggs, they worked wonders. My cognitive abilities spiked. I didn't have that brain fog as much. um Hormones started to balance, you know. That's one of the best things that happened for me was just like when your hormones go off balance, you also get like mood swings. And I noticed when I was vegan, I started to have these like wild mood swings. One day I'd be like good, one day I'll be down for no reason. Nothing's changed, nothing in my external environment's different, but it's it, the hormones, the attack on the nervous system, the fatiguing which comes with that over time, the depletion, it leaves you in that state. And so when we introduced the fats again and went vegetarian, that all started to turn on again. At least speaking for myself, I don't know. I don't know, like, what are the main benefits for you?
I'd agree. Mainly, yeah, the nervous system more calm. I remember I had issues when I was vegan with um like always up in the mind, slight insomnia at times, over racing mind. I think that that was sort of neutralized with that grounding from the saturated fats,
Mhm.
especially the raw milk. And also, you know, it was a big thing when you think that it's the ideal spiritual diet, but also noticing that not being vegan, it doesn't impact your spiritual life and your whole connection with nature. And that grounding actually brings you a lot closer, especially when you know the direct source of where you're getting the food, the
Mhm.
farmers. It's all it's all aligned with the principles of nature.
Yeah. I think I read a quote today. I wish I had the quote with me. It's an unknown author of the quote, and it says something like it goes in the likes of this, where teach people the correct principles and let them do whatever they do with it, basically. And you know, in a shoddy form, I've just butchered the quote, but essentially it's that. It's teach correct principles and let the person do whatever they want with that. There's a difference between that and being sort of mind controlled or being persuaded or having conditions. Like spirituality doesn't have conditions. Spirituality is like oh, don't eat meat and you're going to become spiritual. At least that's how I saw it back then. And that's a condition, that's not a principle. Do you get what I mean?
Mm.
There's principles of spirituality and attaining more of a connection with God, but there's not conditions. And that condition is part of the attachment. It's part of like how you become attached to something. And yeah, like when I stopped being vegan, I actually seen a growth in my spiritual nature because I feel like I became more aware of myself, my inner body, my environment, and the world at large. Like one of the greatest things about being, we're talking about the negative effects of us being vegan, but at the very, some of you watching this, you might be going through exactly the same thing. But the after it's all done, we look back and it's actually a very beautiful experience because of the wisdom and knowledge that you gain from having such an experience where you can be in a state now with greater levels of awareness and greater levels of discernment. That's the power. Um, for me anyway, when I look at certain diets, whether it's carnivore, paleo, I can pick point and I can take the benefits of each without having to become so attached to it emotionally and spiritually and in a sort of mind control way, because I do believe, what, after watching the What the Health documentary 6 years ago, it kind of just it infiltrated your mind. It sold us, it sold us on a lifestyle, and we were vulnerable at that stage. But now you have such a level of discernment because like I fully ask myself, why do I do this now? When we went vegan, we didn't need to heal. We didn't need to, uh, we didn't need to be on this kind of diet. We just did because we were convinced to do it. We didn't truly sit down and ask, like, okay, why am I doing this now? And so now, when you have that level of awareness, you don't get caught in the cycles and the loops and the detrimental effects of being in a cult-like kind of mindset, or in a cult. Essentially, veganism is a cult. I mean, I'm beating around the bush, but it essentially is the modern day veganism. So